Hi Year 7, this is the first of 5 lessons that we're going to do on fractions. In this first lesson, we're going to do an introduction to fractions, including all of the notation and terminology. So I thought we'd start by letting my granddaughter Abby explain what she knows about fractions. We're going to use a block of chocolate.
There we go. All right, so we've got, so how many halves make up the whole?
How many halves make up a whole? Two.
Two. You see 1 and 2. So when we're looking at fractions, can you tell me what this means? What's the number on top called?
The numerator.
Yep, that one is called the numerator. And what's the bottom one called?
Denominator.
What's the bottom one mean?
The bottom one means how many things are there altogether? Like
very close.
There's
2. Yep, so it means how many pieces we've split the whole into, and in this case we've split it into 2. What's the top mean?
It means how many do we have of that?
That's right. So here we've got
1.
A half,
haven't we?
One half of the whole block.
So a fraction is a part of a whole. And just like Abby said, it has a numerator and a denominator. Now we can see there in the picture that we have shaded 3/4. The bottom number, the denominator, tells us how many pieces we've divided the whole into. And the numerator tells us how many pieces we have. Now fractions are equivalent if they represent the same proportion of a whole. And equivalent just means equal. Let's look at this example. There we've got a half shaded. I've got my whole and I've divided it into 2 and I've shaded one part of it. Now if I split this into quarters, I have 2/4. So half and 2/4 are equivalent fractions. I could split it into eighths and I would have 4 shaded parts out of 8. So half is equivalent to 2/4 is equivalent to 4/8. We can easily make equivalent fractions. All we have to do is multiply the top and the bottom by the same number. So we ask ourselves, what have we multiplied 3 by to get 12? It's 4, isn't it? And whatever we do to the bottom, we must also do to the top. So we go once times 4 is 4. So these two are equivalent fractions, 1/3 and 4/12. Let's try another one. What have we done to the 2 to get the 6? Multiplied by 3. Whatever we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom. 5 times 3 is 15. 2/5 and 6/15 are equivalent fractions. To simplify a fraction, we divide the numerator and the denominator by a common factor until the fraction can't be broken down any further. Here's an example. The easiest way to do this, if you can, is just to halve the top and the bottom. Half of 8 is 4, half of 12 is 6. We have to do it again because that's not in simplest form. Half of 4 is 2, half of 6 is 3. Now of course there is a shortcut. In order to save time, we can just use the highest common factor. So we say to ourselves, what is the biggest number that goes into 8 that also goes into 12? And it's 4. So 4 into 8 goes twice, 4 into 12 goes 3 times, and we get the answer in one go. This is a useful technique because sometimes we can't halve top and bottom, like this question. Okay, 2 is not a common factor, so we have to ask, what's the highest number that goes into 10 that also goes into 25? And it's 5. 5 into 10 goes twice, 5 into 25 goes 5 times. Answer, 2/5. Okay, let's move on. An improper fraction is a top-heavy fraction. That means the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So for example, 11/7 is an improper fraction. It looks like it's going to fall over. A mixed numeral has a whole number part and a fraction part. So for example, 1.5 is a mixed numeral. Now we can change from a mixed numeral to an improper fraction. Here's an example. It's a mixed numeral. If we want to change it to improper, the denominator is going to stay the same and we're going to end up with a top-heavy fraction. Firstly, what we've got to do is figure out how many thirds there are in 2. And the easiest way to do that is just to multiply. So I'm going to do 3 times 2, which is 6. And then I'm going to add on this extra third that I've got up the top. So 2 3s are 6, plus 1 is 7. And that's how we work out what the numerator is. Sometimes I call this going around the world. So 3 times 2 plus 1 is equal to 7. Let's have a look at this one. So it's going to be quarters, and I'm going to do 4 times 3 plus 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. We can also go the other way. If we want to convert improper fractions to mixed numerals, we take our improper fraction and we ask how many of the denominator goes into the numerator. So how many 5s go into 11? There's 2. So put the 2 down. What's the remainder there? It's 1. See how we got that? So we've got the same denominator. We go 5 into 11 goes 2, remainder 1. Let's try one more. 3 into 17 goes 5, remainder 2. Okay, hopefully that was a nice easy lesson to start with. In our next lesson we're going to look at comparing and ordering fractions.